Well, for this second video, we're going to be using some of the same things that we used for the last video, with the exception that from within my tabs up here, I've got rid of the last two lesson plans that we're using. With this new lesson plan template that we're using, Hunter's lesson plan design elements still apply. The outcomes versus objectives still apply. But what's different is the actual lesson plan is different. This lesson plan is based on the research of a person named Dr. Marcia Tate, and what she believes in is what they call the chunk and chew method. And what she specifically means there is that you give students content chunks, and then you give them a chewing activity to do to work with or practice or reinforce the content that you've just taught them. Now, there's some rules around chunking, and the rule is no more than 7 pieces of information. And typically what I will do is I will number them, and I'll do that in a bit when we get down here. And if it's not 7, it's kind of like the car deal. It's 100,000 kilometers or 3 years. It's 7 pieces of information or 20 minutes. So if my anticipatory set is going to take me 20 minutes over here, then even if I have one chunk or one content chunk, it might take me 20 minutes. That's fine. But then what do I do at the end for the chew piece? So you can see also up here, same idea, topic. So what's my topic? I'm going to use the same idea. I seem to be stuck on the nursing theme, so I'll try and stick between nursing and welding again. So up here we'll type in welds, and again you have a date that you can add, you have the subject that you can add, and the lesson objectives. And remember again that we talked about the objectives are what you want to do or teach during the lesson versus the outcomes for the entire course. And again, I would list those here by number. And remember the thing that we do here, just before I do that, I like to always put in students will be able to ... and put in my numbering scheme then. So or you could put in by the end of the lesson, students will be able to, and then list the objectives that you want for them to be able to do. And then I do the same thing over here for assessments. Is again, how will I know that I've accomplished my lesson objectives unless I assess them? And remember again that checking for understanding is important, and questioning is one of the number one ways that you use in your assessment technique. Now there's lots of things. There's quizzes, there's exit cards, there's games, there's all kinds of different strategies you can use for your assessment. But again, like the question says up here, how will you know that they've learned? And so you have to decide on some activities or something that will in your own mind satisfy you that the students have understood the content that you've tried to convey on that for this lesson. Okay, so once we come down here, it's not a lot different than the other lesson planning format that we used. You can see here that I've got 3 segments. Some lessons are 1 segment, some are 3, and in a sample lesson up here, I'll show you there are several more segments. Now, the number of segments will be determined by how many content chunks you have and how long each content chunk takes, plus the amount of time you have for the class. And in addition, on the chew or the activity piece, how long that's going to take. So you've got sort of two timing pieces in here now that you have to think about under each particular segment. So, I mean, this one's called segment 1. And again, the very first piece that we're going to do is the anticipatory set, or as Marcia Tate calls it, the hook. And I keep these questions in there purposefully, is how will I gain the student's attention at the beginning of the lesson? And Tate suggests using a mnemonic device, and I use this here, this name mnemonic device, because she says if you can create need or novelty or meaning or emotion at the beginning of your lesson, then you'll have your students hooked. Okay? So again, if I'm going with content chunks, I will number them so that I know that how many chunks I have. So maybe just in maybe in my anticipatory set I only have 2 chunks, and in the first one this is going to be 3 minutes and 43 seconds, and I can say that with confidence because cheapers, I can't type here, because I know that this is going to be a video. And remember, again, the nice thing about using this method is that I can automatically put in the link, to the video, just copy and paste it and put it in there, and I can make this a link by highlighting it, and whatever link I've copied in Google Docs, I can go to link, and it makes it a link automatically. It recognizes that. So if it were a true link, I just click it and automatically would bring my video up in YouTube or whatever other service you're using. And my second content chunk, maybe I'm going to hand out pieces, exit cards at the very beginning to remind me, so I don't forget that's what I'm going to do. So and then exit cards, that would take 1 minute. So I got my timing for that. So on this particular part, I may not need a chew, or maybe I ask some questions. Or actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go I think pair share, and I'm going to have the students for 2 minutes. Actually, I'm going to make it 3. So for three minutes, I'm going to have them think, pair, share. So that means that they're going to turn to a partner and they're going to talk about the video and what they got from the video. So I'm actually going to have that part is 2 minutes. So each partner gets 1 minute to say, here's what I got, blah, 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 blah. The other partner does the same thing. And then each group is going to report back to the larger group on what they got from the video. So I might actually, again, remember our notes section over here, I might actually put that in there in the notes section, 1 minute per student and 1 minute to report. Okay, and again, because this is in my Google Doc, I can make this a little bit wider if I wanted, or I can keep it the same length and I can make the font a little bit smaller so that it fits better. I don't recommend making things too small on any of these lesson plan templates, and I recommend that you use a minimum of a 12-point font. Okay, so I just there, I'm just going to do it that way, just to remind myself. 1 minute per student, 1 minute to report. Okay, and then I would go on to my lesson segment 2. And again, I would number it, saying what I'm going to do. In our topic, we talked about welding as our topic. I'm actually going to change that just because I'm not as familiar. I'm just going to, we're going to call this injections. So the first thing that I'm going to do, again, not forgetting Hunter's steps. So I've got my anticipatory set done. I've got my purpose or my objective done up here. So I've listed them, and I'm just going to put in any kind of typing in there. I've listed them, the 3 objectives that I want to get out of this lesson. So that goes in line with my purpose of my lesson. One of the other things that, again, for input or vocabulary, that might be something that I need to do in my anticipatory set, or I could put it in, let's say, my segment 1. So in here I can say have students list the 3 things or the 3 parts of an injection. And all you nurses out there, please forgive me for that. So, and then in my notes I could put over here 1, 2, 3, or I could just list them for myself any old way that I want. So we're gonna have the needle. Well, actually, maybe let's think safety. We have to have gloves, the needle, the syringe, the vial, and whatever other things that you might want to do on there. So for the first part, I'm teaching them the really the 4 parts of the 4 main parts of giving an injection. That they have to have safety with gloves, they need to have the correct gauge of needle, they have to have the correct type of syringe, they have to have the correct vial with medication, and maybe I might want to add one in here is the injection point. Okay, is where are they going to actually give that injection? Is it in the upper arm? Is it in the leg? Is it diabetic that gives it in the stomach? Where is that? And then again, for the chew portion, what am I going to do? Maybe I'm just going to do a really quick review. Maybe I just have them verbally relist parts, something really quick. So again, under timing, I would put here how long it's going to take me. Under the chew, I would say how long it's going to take me, and that's the next part. Okay, so if I go back to my elements, so I've given them the input, the terms, and the things that they're going to need. So then for segment, actually I'll just close this window because we don't really need it anymore. For here, for segment 2 now, this is where we're going to practice on our oranges, right? So here is, each group gathers their injection kit, right? And then what would be in that kit would be farther down on my lesson plan. Let me just go here for 1 second. Right under my displays and materials. So in their injection kit, you would at least have the things that you talked about. So so again, using Hunter's thing is they can gather their injection kits, and here now I'm going to model proper technique. And again, all you nurses out there that are watching this, I apologize for my ignorance in your profession. But I'm going to model a proper technique on the orange, right? On orange, and show students that. And again, perhaps for chew, you could have them relist what you do. You could have them talk to a partner. You could have them walk through it, but without, with the needle cap on. You could have them put the syringes together. You could have them walk each other through what they would do. So each one again so another think, pair, share type of idea. Each one telling them their partner what the steps are. Again, the chew part is up to you, and again, don't forget your timing here and your timing here. Okay, so for segment 3, if we go back to the elements, I've modeled. Now it's guided practice time. So now that they've got their kits and they've got their needles and syringes and oranges out, I'm going to, so under here it's practice time, okay? And so what they're going to do is they are going to properly, take the cap off of the needle. They're going to properly hold the orange. They're going to inject the needle in correctly. If they're using a vial with liquid in it, maybe they're going to inject it into the orange. If they're using vials, hint, hint, maybe, and they're going to use oranges, maybe you want to use vodka as your solution. That way it'll be a lot more fun at the end of the lesson. But that's some guided practice. So here, I would almost have, as my chew part, I might not even have a chew part because they've had some hands-on experience here doing the guided practice. What I might do here instead is I might do a check for understanding here, and just to remind myself about as they're doing this, they've got X amount of minutes again to do it there. I might walk around the classroom and look to see what they're doing. And check for understanding can be very informative. I mean, if you walk by each group and they're doing it correctly, great. You've done a great job. Maybe they're great students. Maybe it's an easy concept. But conversely, if you're walking around and you've got 6 groups in there and 3 of them, half of them are doing it incorrectly, you might need to stop and reteach or review, and then have them do it again, and then you walk around the classroom again until you're satisfied that they're doing it properly. So again, that's where check for understanding comes in. And so you could ask questions again. You could have them read. You might have 3 of the groups that were doing it correctly, have one of the group come to the front of the class and have them demonstrate and walk through. And again, so that piece then, if you had a group that was doing it properly come to the front of the class and show, that is the peer teaching piece. So now you're having a student or students come to the front of the class and show. So again, they're demonstrating their mastery of the content. And again, there's no better way to know that students understand what you're trying to teach them is if they can teach somebody else. So that was their guided practice time, and if I guess I could just put G practice time in there. And so now I need another segment because I'm not quite done. Or maybe your guided practice and you're going to combine your independent practice, or give them another run through. Just for the sake of doing that, I'm going to call this guided / independent practice. And I'm going to give them time to I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to let them practice on their own. So again, I put the timing in here, the timing for the checking for understanding, if you're going to do that, to make sure that you're on track. And then after I've done those 2, I'm on to my closure again. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to ask verbal questions about the procedure. So that's one thing I'm going to do. The other thing that I'm going to do is I am going to have one demo again, just from one student, just to reinforce that for students. Another thing that I might do is have everybody have safe disposal of materials. And the fourth thing is, again, I'm really big on exit tickets. I might give them an exit ticket again for one thing that they understood. One thing that they were kind of unsure of, and then one thing that they absolutely just didn't know from last day. And that would inform you then from there I would read these after my lesson and say, okay, yep, they understood all those things. Here's a couple things they were unsure about, and here's, you know what, out of 24 students, 11 of them said they were just unsure about one particular piece of that. I would then take the thing that they were unsure about, and for my next lesson, that would be one of the things that I would do in my anticipatory set. So it would be very simple then just to add a third thing in, is that would be review, you know, whatever concept it was for the next lesson. Okay, under your closure, really actually your exit ticket, let me just cut that out of there. Your exit ticket really is, your exit ticket really is your chew piece of that, and you probably don't need to do anything else there. And again, we're timing this. Again, how long is it going to take to do this? Verbal questions, how many are you going to ask? Are you asking every student? Are you going to ask each group? If you're going to ask for one demo, how long is that going to take? To safely dispose of those materials, how long is that going to take? And then for get the students to fill in the exit ticket, this whole process is going to take quite a few minutes. So again, you've got to think from the very start up here to the very end over here, down here, is how long is that going to take given the amount of time that you have for your class. And then again, I would obviously have, before my lesson, my references, and I showed you that in the other one where I went in, you know, in here and said page 42, the YouTube video, and I would put the specific link in there. You might have a diagram, those types of things. Again, your displays and materials obviously would be everything that was in your injection kit, so gloves, needles, syringe, vials. I guess we need, in that kit you would need an orange, so you'd have under your displays and materials here, you'd have oranges or whatever other type of practice thing you have here. Again, if you're using the sim arms or those kinds of things, you'd have those listed. And then the other thing that I do in this chunk and chew lesson plan is I just leave a box at the end for extended teaching notes. And so if here, you know, I've got notes written in here, but if there are things that, these are kind of, again, notes to self, things that I might do differently next time. I kind of, here what I usually do is kind of do my good, my bad, and my ugly. And for each one of those, and let me separate those into their own categories, right? And then what I do is, it's a good thing for me to review, said, you know, in the lesson, what went really well, and I would type in that, the kits were prepared very well. Bad is usually things that I would just sort of tweak or change for the next lesson. And I would do this for the other format of lesson planning as well. I use a lot of sticky notes to do this good, bad, and ugly piece. And then ugly is something that you would never do again. Never do again. And usually when I have students review their good, bads, and uglies, they usually don't have uglies. Uglies are you know what, something that went horribly wrong, or that was just awful, and I wouldn't do it again that way again. And I wouldn't do it at all. So it's not a bad, it's not something that you tweak or change. You might want to tweak and say, well, I'd use a different gauge of needle next time, or something like that. I always give the example of ugly as I had students standing up on chairs and one person fell down and broke their arm. So you know what, next time I would never do that again. And these extended teaching notes here, you can put in whatever you want. This area is for you to add all of the things that you need to add to make this make sense to you. Again, remember, again, you may not be teaching this for another term, another year. Who knows? It might be 2 years before you teach it again. And the other thing is I like to put in as much information as I can, because I do share these lesson plans online with my students, so I don't hide anything from them, so they can go back again. If they wanted to go back and say, you know what, I want to review that video that Brad showed at the beginning, they could click on the video link and go back. Here, if I had a diagram right here that had the parts of the injection process, if I had a diagram, they could come back and click on that and bring that diagram back up. So my lesson plan actually goes up onto Blackboard, so my students can use it for review, and review the different pieces of it. So that's basically the gist of the Chunk and Chew lesson plan. And I've gone for 25 minutes. So what I want to do is just spend about maybe 2 minutes showing you what a finished one of these Chunk and Chew lesson plans look like. So this is the one that I team taught in the middle years program. And so for the date, I didn't put a specific date. I said it is in the winter term because this course is typically taught in the winter term. Again, here in this class there were only 2 objectives, but there were 4. Well, there's actually more, but at least 4 assessment methods. And some of these may not make sense to you, but that's okay. And you can see here that for my anticipatory set, I said that I was going to use a thumb ball. I said it was going to be 10 minutes. We were going to do an activity called a mix pair share, not a think pair share. And I was going to show these videos. And I've got more than one video there, because sometimes some groups I'll want to show one video, some groups I'll want to show a different video too. So in some instances I may want to show them all. So in this instance, if I'm doing my math correctly, I think all of these things add up to about 10 minutes. And then you can see here the next piece that I put in here. It wasn't really another segment, but it was sort of a continuation of the anticipatory set, talking about what anticipatory set does, and you can see I've got links to each one of these things in blue. So if I clicked on this primacy recency effect, it would explain what that meant, and I would click that in class and show them. But again, if I posted this lesson to Blackboard and they couldn't remember what primacy and recency effect meant, they could click that link and it would bring them to there, and they could go, oh, right. This part here, I talk about, if you watch a James Bond movie, the first 2 or 3 minutes is, a real action scene that catches your attention, and then it breaks off to the James Bond intro. And so the Bond movies are really good at having sort of an anticipatory set that captures your attention well. So that's just an example. And then I explain the name thing to my students here, because these were ed students. I wanted to explain that to them. And then you can see the different lesson segments here. So we did an activity here, a 30-minute activity. So this was a 3-hour lesson, and this was called What So What. And again, if I click on it, it brings up, and I'll do that just to show you, it brings up the What So What activity. And so that again can remind students, and it also reminds me during the lesson to show them what I want from them. So I can close that after I'm done, I can leave it open, but it's there. And then you can see everything else in here that I've added. The Chew part of this, they were going to play a game, an online game called Brainscape. And again, the So What piece, so there was 2 activities in here that I added for that. And also, just to remind myself that part of this here was that they were going to draw it and mold the brain, because this lesson was all about the brain and memory. So you can see again, I don't have to explain each piece or go to each piece. You can see that with my videos, I've also said how many minutes they would be in this spews thing. This is a graphic organizer, and I'm going to click it just to show you what a graphic organizer is. So what we did with this specific graphic organizer, if it will ever open, was give them this diagram, but without the actual words here. So this was for myself, but we gave them just a picture of this brain with the lines, and then the students had to label each part of the brain and fill in a little bit of information about that. And then we used this diagram to check to make sure that they got it correctly. And if they didn't get it correctly, they got to fill in the pieces that they missed. And then we used a chew activity called All Right Round Robin. Okay, and then you can see that we kept on going. There are more segments, so we're working on down now to segment 5, segment 6, and ending off with segment 6 as the last thing. 7 pieces, 15 minutes. So remember the rule: no more than 7 pieces, no more than 20 minutes. Okay, and then we had some games that reinforced all of the concepts that we taught in all previous 6 segments. And these were the games, and these are the rules and the stuff that went with the games. And then we closed the whole lesson off with 2 chewing activities. One, you can see I did exit passes, and then we played another online game called Space Race. And then you can see here at the bottom that I added what materials I needed. I needed the sheet, I needed dartboards, golf sets, bowling sets, ping pong sets, masking tape, and then here are all the links to all of the videos that I used in the video. And on this one I didn't particularly add any teaching notes, but it's still there. So and these, because again this is on a Google Doc, it can just, this is page 4 of 4, it can expand to as far as you need it. So that's kind of what a typical lesson using the chunk and chew method would look like. And again, I would post this lesson to Blackboard either before or after the lesson, and I'd also have this lesson up on the smartboard or on the screen at the front, so that I could go through this lesson with the students and they can see exactly what I'm going to do. I would talk to them about the objectives of what they should be able to do by the end of the lesson, and so that's what I would do using this lesson plan. So I think that's it for now. And again, if you have any questions at the end, or you want this template format, under my teaching notes, again, I can put in my address, my email address here, my RDC one anyways, and I can send you this template and you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, thanks for listening.